Hi, this is Rachel from the Shades of Orange. Today my video is Underhyped YA books. And I know there's a lot of young adult books talked about on BookTube, but today I want to focus on some books that, at least in my opinion, are underhyped, lesser known, and aren't read as much as they should be. I read primarily adult, but I do enjoy a good YA book every now and then, and these are some of my favorites that I think need a little more attention. Now, first I want to recommend a duology, and that is Tiny Pretty Things, and the second book is Shiny Broken Pieces, both by Sonia Karikaportra and Danielle Clayton. And this is a book about a teenage group of primarily girls, but there's some guys as well, who go to an elite ballet school. And this is basically Gossip Girls in a ballet school setting. It's so fantastic. It's a very addictive story about a group of teenagers who want the leads in these ballet productions put on by their school and are willing to do anything, including backstabbing each other and gossiping behind each other's back in order to secure those positions. It's really a story of how far these girls will go, and it was so much fun to read. Maybe not the deepest story, but honestly, I didn't care. This duology was so much fun, and I also appreciate that this book has a lot of diversity in terms of both ethnicity and sexual orientation. I just think these books are a lot of fun. If you need something lighthearted just to fly through, something maybe to get you out of a reading slump, this is a perfect 2 books to read. You will absolutely enjoy them. Next is a book called Pretty Girl 13, and this is about a girl who goes missing at age 13 and then years later shows up on her parents' doorstep. We realize that she must have been kidnapped, but she has lost or repressed her memory, so she really doesn't know what happened or where she was in those years. In her mind, she basically was at summer camp and then just appeared at her parents' doorway. So even though she's now an older teenager, about I think 17, she still has the mind of a 13-year-old. And the story is both a contemporary of her trying to put her life back together and learn how it is to be an older teenager and fit in again with her friends and family, but it's also a bit of a suspense and mystery of what happened to her, where she was, and what's going on. And this is a book that puts the psychological in psychological suspense. So much of this book is in her mind and deals with repressed memories. I found it absolutely fascinating, absolutely gripping. It's such a good story. I highly recommend this one. It's got some really good twists and turns. Next, I want to recommend a lesser known book by a more famous author, and that is The Winter Girls by Laurie Halse Anderson. A lot of people know her as an author because of her book Speak, which is widely popular, but I feel like very few people know about this book, and even less people have actually read it. I adore this book. I think it's just as good as Speak, and I'd really like more people to read it. This is from the perspective of a young teenage girl whose best friend has just died, and she is dealing with that grief and at the same time dealing with her own eating disorder. She basically struggles from anorexia, and the story is very much told in her mind. You get to see her thoughts as she struggles between feeding her body and taking care of herself and this internal pressure to control her surroundings. And she definitely uses her eating disorder as a way to cope with her own grief. It's such a good story. I personally, for whatever reason, always found the concept of eating disorders as a idea very fascinating to read about, so I was immediately gripped by the story, and I think the writing and narrative is so gripping. So highly recommend this one. If you have not picked this one up, this is definitely one to put on your reading list. Now I want to recommend a book called Complicity by Stephanie Kuhn, which is really hard to pitch because it's hard not to give away too much. Essentially, it's told from a teenage boy's perspective who has a lot of his own struggles. He really deals with some strange kind of psychosomatic issues where his hands go numb, and he deals with a lot of anxiety. And he is currently going through a bit of a crisis because he has just learned that his sister, who was in juvie, has just gotten out and has told him that she is coming to see him, and she is a bit crazy. She's done some really awful things, and He doesn't really know why she's coming to see him and what she has to tell him. It really keeps the reader in the dark the entire time. I did not know what was happening until the very end. Very suspenseful, short, quick read, very easy to get through. I will admit that this is one of the lower rated books that I'm going to recommend for you today. I only actually gave it 3.5 stars because I didn't think it was perfect, but it was a super interesting story, and very much if you like that idea of not knowing what's going on. Very interesting as a psychological suspense, and Stephanie Kuhn is definitely an author to keep your eye out for. I would like to read more of her books and really see what she can do, because this one was fascinating, so you might want to pick that one up as well. Finally, I want to recommend a book called Point by Brandy Colbert. This is about a young African-American ballet dancer who just gets word that her childhood best friend who went missing years ago has been found and is coming home. However, he is not talking, so no one knows what happened to him. And this book is a combination of all the things I love: kidnapping stories, eating disorders, and ballet. So it's kind of a combination of some of the books I just previously pitched. But this book brings it all together in a fantastic way. I would say that it's more of a contemporary than a suspense, because it's more about her dealing with her personal issues, as well as coming to terms with what it means to have her best friend home again. And she realizes that she might have known more about why he was missing than she originally thought. It deals with some really grown-up and graphic issues, but I thought the story was so well done, and I just think that this author is one to watch again. She tells a fantastic, gripping story, and this is a book that was just wonderful to read. So I highly recommend this last one. So those are some of the underhyped YA books I think more people should be reading. Give me some recommendations down below of some YA books that you think are underhyped, or of the 5 books I mentioned, which one are you most likely to pick up? Thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon. Okay, bye.